Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and I've got no idea what I'm doing. And welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. We're using StreamYard this week, so if there's any clumsiness, then tough, quite frankly, because I've never used it before today. With me to watch me fumbling around is Webby.
Hey-o.
I don't know why I said Webby rather than Wesley. I think it's because it says that on the screen.
Yeah.
And we are joined by, quite frankly, hobby royalty is how I refer to him. You'll know him as Keith Boyle. A lot of people know him as K2. But we are also blessed to have his new handle on the screen at Hobby Archival. How you doing, Keith?
I'm bipolar, I guess, now at this point in time with all these different identities.
To be fair, it's not unusual for people in the hobby to have multiple identities. So you're joining a long line of them. So Keith, when's the last time you were on? You've not been on for over a year, have you?
It would have been a little bit. I remember.
Yeah.
This is. I always seem to sign on while I'm in my back room here and all this. So this is a different back room that we're in this time. So yeah, it's been a while. That we actually got an official warehouse and moved most of our stuff off site, and now this is our little small studio that we do all our live shows from and things like that for the store.
So that's been quite a big shift in the last year. From in fact, I remember when it was kind of late spring last year, and it was a hobby questions episode.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Amanda was on it as well,
mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, or K3. Am I allowed to publicly call her K3?
I think you can be publicly known. She's K3.
Okay, good, because I ain't editing this out. I've got no idea how to do that. So, in that time, you've dived in a lot to. I just want to. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about in a minute, but I want to talk about your kind of foray into whatnot, because you weren't whatnotting last year.
No, I'd done a little bit of whatnot at that point in time. Realistically, my hobby journey right now is so split up. There's the version of me that wants to collect the cards that I want to collect. Especially the retro hobbyist that's going out there and getting stuff that was, I call it the pre-EPAC eras, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the current collector in me that's jamming on way too many sets because there's just so many options out there. And then I've always, it's now 16 years that we've run the local card shop. I Want More Comics in Thornton, Colorado. And for that, I've always wanted Marvel cards to be a bigger part of what we do in the store. There's a challenge to it, which has to do with that you can only get so much of it visually on the floor. It takes up a lot of space if you want to show off a lot of cards. So that's where internets and technologies and all that fun stuff and whatnot became really big for that, because it's a great little platform for you to be able to showcase, run live shows, interact directly, make sales, and it gravitates to doing hobby breaks, to doing different stuff, and we've really steered into doing character case breaks where sell off each individual character, let them. Let the people bid up based upon the popularity, and then everything that's opened up inside the case you would get. So for my friends here that are both on the screen in front of me, like you guys might be fighting each other for that black cat spot, or you might have played rock paper scissors ahead of time for the show and decided who was going to get to bid this time. But it's a good opportunity to, especially like character collectors can get in on new product instead of ending up buying a box and sitting there with a lot of cards that you may not be good for your own fit. So whatnot's a good platform for that. I think that there's a lot of benefits and advantages for everybody that gets into it. For live bidding, it's the biggest advantage is what you can run a show with that. But it's strangely, as much as it is about a sales platform, it's become a real big community. And people, especially buyers, know each other on it very, very well. Shout out each other, tag each other on stuff that they would like. And it's become a fun environment for that.
I wasn't aware of that, I have to say, because I mean I don't whatnot, partly because time zones and partly because I don't really have time to add that to my kind of to my realm of things that I kind of surf within. What with Facebook and Discord and Instagram and X or whatever it's called now, although I don't tend to use that so much. But what I find interesting is that it's from a person from the point of view who's someone who doesn't do whatnot. I've noticed the shift because it's absent. I remember, wow, let me think. About 3-4 years back in MCCW, people used to go live and open boxes all the time in MC. And now barely anyone does it in the Facebook group. Now, they're not kind of doing the sale element of it as well that whatnot enables you to do. But a lot of people are just choosing to do it in other platforms rather than in the community itself. In fact, I don't even really see. I'm not even sure you can live stream that kind of thing within Discord. But a lot of people do it on YouTube or Instagram and then share it somewhere else. So, do you find that people have migrated to whatnot, or are there kind of people like me who just haven't or can't for whatever reason?
I look at it as just one of these other tools, right? I mean, what's your goal today? If you're out there and looking for to add to your collection or to enjoy your collection, right? What's the goal that we're working on today? And a lot of enjoying obviously can be watching other people's content to see what's there. I have moved just box breaks and information like that mostly to Instagram, and that comes from that with a direct feed in Instagram and notifications that you're going live. I don't feel like you get the same in Facebook anymore. Facebook feels like you're kind of lost at sea. Like a post can go up and definitely people can scroll and find it, but like in the live and in the moment, I always feel like sometimes I miss the notifications.
It's potluck.
Yeah, and so other platforms may do that a little bit better. May have it, and again, using the right tool for the job type thing. So Instagram's purely driven off of visuals, right? It's about video and image, and it is way easier to turn around and scroll your feed and looking at that. We're all looking at the pictures. We're not even really reading the content until the picture grabs our attention on Instagram.
Yeah.
Whereas on Facebook, maybe it is more informational. Maybe I do want to do that. So I think I'd love to sell some cards on Instagram, but I don't do that because I don't quite understand how to grab people's attention on that well. But on Facebook, it can be pretty good. And like some of the search tools inside Facebook are stronger if you're looking for certain words. You're trying to fill out your Flair collection right now. Something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to kind of do that and go into groups for
that. One of the interesting things that I remember a few years back is trying to do a live on Facebook on the podcast page, and it was an absolute disaster because Facebook actually took away functionality. You used to be able to kind of stream with someone else. I don't think you can do that now as a page. I have guests on. So I actually think Meta themselves have pushed that functionality to Instagram because that's where they want it, So
since they own both,
sense.
they're choosing the platform that they want to support, which type of things on.
Yeah, exactly. So talk to me about Hobby Archival, because that's you've rebranded your Instagram, if I remember correctly, to Hobby Archival, but you've also got a YouTube as well. So what's the kind of the idea behind the name Hobby Archival? Where's that coming?
And it was problem solving. I mean, it was really I was looking at issues that I had as a store who wanted to again sell cards and product. Marble cards I get back to it. It's very visual. You want to see the card, you want to see what's going on. And I'm not even talking about like inspecting the condition of a card. I'm just talking about that you want to turn around and know that you're getting the right image that you remember from childhood. Was that the 91 set? Was that the 90 set? Things like that. So first, for me to be able to list singles and put that type of stuff on my own webpage to be able to sell all the product that I have, I was going to need scans. I was going to need details. I was going to need information. And then it crossed over into the collecting side. that I saw some things like I especially want to make sure that my checklists and my wish lists are up to date. This is a great one I can think of is that in one of the Fleer retros, 2013 or 2015, on, and again, right resources, and we should shout out every one of them. That's great, and all this. The House of Checklists. We've all used that. It
Jeff
was
Allender. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is a fantastic resource for that. It's not maintained as much anymore, and I think that a lot of that faded away because you could get the checklist directly off of EPAC a lot of times. Like it's like it wasn't so necessary like it was in the
Yeah.
darker ages of information.
I think it's a bigger thing actually. I think he stopped updating it as COVID hit. So if you look at it, it doesn't get updated at all now.
Yeah,
I don't think he's touched it, and I'm dying to. If anyone's got a lead to Jeff Allender, I'd love to have him on the podcast.
yeah, he to me is one of the grandfathers of helping us collect because
Yeah,
bringing that information together so that I could do it. But I looked at the 2013 or 2015 checklist for Fleer Retro, and there is flare prints on there, and I've never seen these, and they sound like they're like the case toppers from the 90s, like oversized ones. And anyone who I've spoken to about this hasn't had good information about what they are. But as I collect that set, I'd like to have it if it's part of the set, as part of my, what my version of a master set is. If it's obtainable, if it's something out there, I'd like to have it. But I basically don't have proof of life. I don't know that it's out there. So am I really looking for this? Am I really searching for it and all this? Well, between that and then the last, hope to get this motivated was I was collecting on EPAC anime, the first anime, All Peach Momoka.
yeah,
And I watched a couple people, and I definitely will not name names because again, it's context is everything, and what I saw is not all the details. But I watched people talk about the limited amount of what something was, or the unlimited amount of what a card was, and try to get it for a certain value. And this especially ran around because of the chibis. The tier 4 chibis in that set were very limited. There's 5 of them. They're one in. My number, I think in my head, is 1,600 packs. It's a tough find. It's a super short print. But there were people that were convincing others, hey, trade it to me. It's not that big of a card. Yeah, it's not a real size card. Nobody cares about it, things like that. But they were kind of starting to hoard it. I did the math backwards on them. There are so few of those cards out there. It's crazy. And you can see where somebody was turning around and taking some information and using it just for the personal gain. And I think that part of that's okay. It's okay if you're going to use what to turn around and to try to fuel your collection. I think the line is crossed when you use it at the expense of someone else.
Yeah.
So I came up with the idea, what if there was just an open source, everybody can contribute, we can pool all this information together, we can get stories and information. Who knows anything about the Impel printing counts and things like that right now? I mean, some of it you can find. Masterpieces had originally, serial number boxes. But that information that some people do know, that they're not even hoarding, they just don't think to put it somewhere that everybody else can find it, would make sense to gather it up and have everybody have an opportunity to see it. And that everybody could share in with what they know. You know something I don't. I know something you may not. It's but if we all put it in the same spot, if we all have, and it came up in my head about a wiki and doing something along those lines. And so this all just rolled together to hey, let's just talk about the hobby, kind of leave behind the current value of a card, right? We've seen that fluctuate high and low based upon certain things. That's going to be transitory information. But the history of the cards and the amount that were printed and the print runs and the real checklists and examples are not always easily at our fingertips. Why don't we bring that information together and just make it, what it is and present it? And all these new collectors, they keep jumping in, they keep seeing stuff and all this. And how many times do we see somebody put something up that's not like the most hyped up or known set. I'll take 98 Marvel Creators Choice. And somebody posts up some pictures from it. And they go, wow, that's cool. I never knew about that. And I sat there, I went, man, we should just tell everybody about every set. There's really not that much out there. Like there, as far as sets, if everybody got to see everything and got to pick at, or especially a character collector got a comprehensive list of every card that their character was on, and they could choose which ones they want to chase. This is just info. This is just fun.
Yeah.
And you're extending your hobby value because we buy a box today, 200, 900, whatever, don't care. But are we just opening up, flip, finding the biggest one and just focusing on that and moving on? Or do we have a chance to go in there and kind of appreciate all the cards all the way and talk about why this was fun and talk about why, I didn't really love that set. And, but doing it from a spot where I get an extra hour out of enjoyment out of my cards and it didn't cost me $1.
Yeah. It's as people listen to this, watch it, whichever they choose to do, consume it at your own peril. That was the wrong word. The episode that would have been up the week before is one about hobby misinformation, and we recorded it about 3 months ago actually, and it was kind of I was raging when we recorded it. So hopefully it doesn't come across too much because I tried to be kind of quite calm about it. But there was a card that someone had posted up for initially anonymous valuation that was from a Marvel Gems set. And it is one of the male diamond cards, male character diamond cards. Now those, even on Jeff's website, which is brilliant, don't get me wrong, but Jeff's a human and humans make mistakes. So and there aren't many other sites that carry Marvel Gems as information. I mean, you've got Trading Card Database, which is fine. It is what it is. I find the user interface a bit clunky on that myself. But and there's Beckett. So there are some sources, but there isn't really what's the expression? A single source of truth, as it were. And so. And this, the individual that was commenting on this post was frankly giving out incorrect information, saying it was a fraudulent card, it was a counterfeit card, and all this sort of stuff, and was just like lots of people were throwing perfectly solid intel at it. No, didn't want to hear it, just kept spouting on, and that's just one example. But it struck me as there's whether it's purposeful or accidental, and purposeful speaks to your example with the chibis, that people do, with the explosion and proliferation of content, people do misspeak, people do misremember, and unfortunately that might get out there, and all of a sudden it becomes someone else's truth about whatever that element of the set is. And I find that maddening, because I would hate for someone to read that post about a really interesting set, Marvel Gems. I mean, it's a fascinating set, about that particular card, which is a high-end, sought-after character, very limited. I think it's estimated that there's 5 out there, but it's not numbered, if I remember correctly. And don't take my word for that, folks. Having just said that, someone says it out loud, it becomes true. It just bugs me. So yes, it would be great if there is, not held in any one place or for any one purpose, but open to everyone, a place where someone could go, actually, I just went and checked this, and it's kind of like, it's crowdsourced, all the intel, because some people know more about this set, some people know more about this set. Webby, I'm sure you know about certain sets more than others. Ask me a question about Masterpieces 2007, 2008. Right. I'm the guy. I'm the guy on that one, because I went in deep on those. So, and I'm not all knowledgeable about them as well. Every day's a new day at school. So, I guess if last week was about hobby misinformation, I think this week is about hobby information.
Well, and you end up in I remember the conversation you were talking about. And I had nothing to contribute to it myself, because I didn't know that set. but I see things like that. There was an example in the groups of someone who had potentially counterfeited or altered sketches from those late 90s sets, the Creator's Choice, the Silver Age, because it was very early into sketch cards. And there was a lot of things when they stamped those cards, they thought that was the authentication that would make it easy, but still most of them were drawn in pencil and could be altered or things like this. But when I saw people talking with definitive information about that was strictly wrong, I actually got so mad I left the hobby for a couple months. I took a step back because it was that frustration about it. It's a detail out there that I know a part of. I don't know definitively, but I'd love to get with other people who know this. One of the things is that Skybox at that time, when they were doing the first cards and they handed them out to some very, very high profile comic artists, these people that are historical and Hall of Fame level kind of things. My understanding is it came back where some of those came back to Skybox unsigned. Like it just was we missed it. It was autopilot. Ramita didn't sign this.
Yeah.
And that someone at Skybox applied signatures. And then they were inserted into packs. And then they went out like that. But I've had people who have definitively said, oh, that's not his signature. That's not Ramita's signature. So that's definitely a faked card. Somebody faked that. Well, whereas it's not really a faked card. It was done differently in the process. And I would say if you knew all the information, you could rank a sketch by Ramita with a Ramita good signature as probably more desirable than a sketch by Ramita with a after put on signature. Versus obviously we should have no value at all for counterfeits or alter, things that were deliberately, deceitfully altered. But we all don't know this information, right? We don't know that these things kind of exist. And a lot of it comes from, well, I remember this because I was there, and I remember this because I was told, and that you can't source it correctly anymore. And as I get older, my memory seems to fade. So let's write it down. Let's get it to where we can all talk about it realistically and write it down. And then potentially, what if we found the person at Skybox who could come through and correct it and give us the best kind of information? But it's just not out there in a spot. Like I said, House of Checklist is amazing. It's a great spot. If it's not being updated anymore, if we're not getting any kind of corrections into it, then it has its limited use. It has its cap to it. If we look towards EPAC for checklists, but what happens if that site evolves and doesn't have it anymore? It's just like the old good information on Rittenhouse is really tough to find anymore, but you still do have the Internet Wayback Machine, the archive, where you can go and you can find the information, but let's just bring it into a more searchable format. And that's where we started with the Fandom site. That we've started to populate with sets and with images and with details. And I want it to go all the way. I want to be able to go into a checklist and see that the card number 5 is Wolverine. But then I can click on the Wolverine and I get over to a Wolverine page and I can see all that stuff there. I want to see that we credited the artist and we can go back to the artist page. And I especially want to be able to say, I'm a huge fan of certain sketch artists, even though I don't collect sketch cards myself. But what's all the sets that Tony Perna did? What if I was decided that my collection now is going to be one Tony Perna card from every set that he did? Can I get a list of all the sets that he was on? Well, I mean, again, we can message Tony because he's a great guy, but like having a resource there that even kind of like promotes or facilitates these ideas. But this circular, find the information in a structured way and be able to find it the way you want to see it. You care about the collectors. I care about the sets. We all care about the images. Whatever. Let's just put it all out there and make it where everybody can turn around and see. And then to Marvel Gems, on the Marvel Gems page, we'd have a picture of that. We'd have the checklist up so that you would see it, and it would be a lot more definitive. This card, while what are called in comic books, they're called ghosts. So a comic book that is so rare that you just never find it, it's called a ghost. It's never spotted. Well, There's a lot of cards like that in this. We know, like the Stan Lee Mike Waringo stuff from Creators
Yeah.
Choice. I think everybody knows Mirages existed in 95 Masterpiece, but not everybody's ever seen one.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rarities,
Yeah.
the gathering that information so everybody can enjoy it too.
See, that's fascinating to me, that concept of ghost cards, because there are something. I don't know if you do this, Wesley. I'm a bit of a nutter with this.
Yeah.
But thanks for agreeing so readily. With my black cat collecting, when something's pulled that's a limited or one of one, I immediately capture an image of it off ePack before it goes and gets lost. So, or if I see it on eBay, or if I see it on ComSe's not so bad actually. I mean, I do capture the images off ComSe, but ComSe stuff stays there. So, as an example, I can go onto ComSe and I can search for Fleer Ultra Spider-Man 2017 Gold PMG, which is the one of one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know it was sold very soon after ePack release for less than $300. Someone told me who's got access to that, because you can, see sold prices if you pay a certain thing. I don't even want to get started with that. It makes me swear. You think, Wesley, I make you swear every time I get something, but that made me swear that day. But you can still see the image of it. So at least, at the moment, until they change that site, and that's the thing, you can't take this for granted, because as you said, the Rittenhouse site that I remember on this podcast with the former co-host, we went through the Rittenhouse website and we were effusing about the fact that it was a resource and it was brilliant. What do Rittenhouse do? They go and change their website. They take down a load of old content, probably because they're paying to host the stuff, because there was so much on there. There was lists of sketch artists in the earlier sets. There were how many they'd done. You had images of, I think on some of the early sets, you had images of a lot of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the sketch cards. It was absolutely crazy.
Wow.
And this stuff, and if you think back to Scoundrel is a great example. So Scoundrel is still there. You can still go and look through the stuff. But all the images, forget about it. Dead photo bucket link. Dead photo. I mean, that place is like a graveyard for photo bucket links. It's so frustrating. So the info's there. You can still go and dig into it. If you at some point someone's going to take that site down. I mean, for all I know, it's gone down now. I haven't looked at it for about 2 months. But it's going to go. So, and Jeff Allender's site, if he's no longer updating it, at some point, he'll probably stop paying that bill. Gone. So, I think it's important for this stuff to be out there. And the other thing I find interesting is this concept of the fact that there are people who knew about Marvel Gems who fed into that. So the Marvel gem experts, I guess, there are people who've gone after that set and have looked into it. There are people who've really gone into 2013, 2015 Fleer Retro, which I know very little about. There are people who are nuts about Marvel Universe 1990. And I know of at least 2 people separately to each other who've gone off and made spreadsheets and tracked down who all the artists are. But they've done that because they're siloed. They don't know they've done it. So wouldn't it be great if they could collectively both bring their efforts together, combine it with what you're doing, resource for everyone to use and everyone to access and everyone to learn from. Democratically, I think is probably the best way.
Somebody that uses the term "extend your hobby value" obviously has a love for this hobby. How did you get started in it?
Oh, me personally, I've always been drawn to collecting something. I remember, I think the first thing I really hard collected was coins, because it was easy to get pennies and nickels off of Mom and Dad and get those little snap-in box, fold out that you could just find one from 1955.
I've got some of those. Yeah.
Just it was a blast and all this. So then it transformed into going to local stores that would have coins, so I could search for, Mom's purse is not going to always have a 1939 penny, which Doesn't have to be expensive, just has to be one that I don't have in my book.
Yeah.
Um, and then while you're there, you look at the other options. You see comic books. You see um, extra pieces like cards. And so I definitely remember in middle school seeing the 1990 Marvel Universe cards and being amazed by them. And then I remember probably starting to buy with like some 92 packs. Like I had a little bit of fun in that. I got hardcore into it, as hardcore as you can be when you don't have your own license to drive around, into 94 Fleer Ultra X-Men and begging mom, we got to go check the Walmarts. And man, the Walmarts have these packs, and I need to find these packs because they've got these extra cards, and I can't find them anywhere else.
Yeah.
Not knowing at the time that silver crossovers were going to be the thing that we were still talking about 25, 30 years. But I just wanted to have them because I wanted to complete my set. It was on the checklist. I needed to finish the checklist. The printed checklist is so quickly discarded by Upper Deck today, but what they miss in that idea, and maybe it's just not the design of collecting anymore, it drove you this desire to like finish it, to flush it out, to have that kind of thing. So that had it, and I guarantee you, having checklists fed me into this idea too, that I wanted to have something to work up and something to put there. And then I wanted to talk real quickly and mention to your idea about, again, these resources that could go away or could get broken. It was a large concern of mine right away. Like, imagine putting in a whole bunch of time and effort into something, thinking you're building up something great, and then it's gone because you don't have the whatever you did. You lost a hard drive. I mean, we've all lost data. That type of thing. So I picked the website Fandom, which is all fan-based wikis, because they're so large. It is monetized with their advertising, so I feel like as a business that they've got their way to make money, and I'm fine with that. But they give us the resources to host up everything, to make the pages, to do all of that type of stuff for free. And so the pages that are created, anyone can right now go to what I've started up with the Marvel card collecting wiki on there. You can create your own pages. You can add to them. I'd hoped that what I was going to do ahead of time was to really set up and establish a format, because data is the most useful if it follows like a universal format that we all can see it and flow through it. And it doesn't mean that like the first format that I came up with is the definitive answer. It just means like, here's my suggestion. Here's all the things I think we include. When later on the community says, hey, you really should have included this on every one of the cards. We could have had this information on here and it would have been better. And we can all just add to it. We can all just add on and go from there. So, but I feel that putting all that information on a public site like that, where everyone can edit and everyone can kind of get into it, if it turns out 6 months from now, I get bored, I don't get it, I'm not going to do this anymore, it doesn't really matter, because it's public and it's open and anybody else can get into it and edit. And in most specifically, the largest problem that we have with that, the wiki today, is I don't put enough hours into it. It's going to take so many hundreds of thousands of hours, it feels like, to document and scan and upload everything. I'm not going to get it done myself. And I want it to be anyone who else wants to be part of this, wants to find enjoyment in some of the notating or bringing information to the table, can do that. Or let's say it's, like I said, I wanted to have a full database of which sketch artists were on which sets. Let's say somebody's like, well, I'd love to do that. I'm a sketch artist, but I'm not tech savvy. There'll be ways to email somebody who will help them put the information onto it. And it's all volunteer based. Nobody's going to get time off of this. The monetization of that website is all to Fandom to pay for hosting, and I'm fine with that. Who cares? But it's also a public website. It's not anywhere behind a wall that somebody can decide who's in or who's out. Again, as great, I have no knock about MCCW. I wouldn't say anything about holding people out of MCCW. I think that the community there is great, and the only people that have been removed or held out and all this have good reason to not be part of a community. But you still had to know about it. You still had to turn around and join it. You still had to come into it, and it's not publicly searchable. Whereas somebody who all of a sudden picks up and says, Marvel Bronze Age from Rittenhouse. What was that all about? Google search. Maybe the wiki comes up. Maybe that becomes a source of information, and you just have it. Google tells you about it. And again, you can just have that information publicly that anyone can find it, and no one can decide who's allowed in the room or not in the room, and the information is just wildly out there. It's why the site had a focus on any information that we had about a set, then checklists and images and credits to the artists who worked on it, and any other card note specific. I think of this like 2019 Flare that's on that site as I built it up. One of the cards, and I'm going to space on which one it is. Dennis is going to beat me up because I don't remember, but one of the cards does not have a pack pulled auto. And it says on the checklist, this card, the pack pulled autos do not exist. And the reason is that they were lost in the mail between Brazil and here. I hope it's Brazil. Great. Now we know that information. While everybody's out there racking their minds trying to say, why is there no auto for this card? Well, we put that, and we put a note next to it and tell people why. And you know why you're not complete if that's what you were trying. Like, this card never comes up. Well, there's a reason. There it is right there. And then the last area that I thought was really interesting, and this was more of a track the hobby area, I created an area in there for grading census. So take a set, and I've done this on a couple of the sets, and you go to each one of the grading companies, the major grading companies I was using PSA, CGC, Beckett, and SGC, right? You search it once a month, and you would do a total of how many cards for that set were graded, how many of them were 10s, how many of them were 9s. And what I liked about the information is A, is this set gaining in popularity with people grading it and putting the information out there? B, does this set just always 10? You know, we look at the platinum cards that are being graded right now, all those high grades, right? Has anybody seen a 5? Yeah. I've never seen a 5 on that set. Fantastic. I'm glad they did a good job on producing that cards, and they come out of the pack really sharp and really clean and that. But what's the real mean grade, and mean being average for anybody, you know, I'm not being a bad guy. What's the average grade on a 1990 Marvel Universe? We know the centering problems. We know all of those types of things. We know that the front and back don't even have to be centered to each other. So is this a set that a 10 is really, really rare? Well, archive it once a month, you know, was the whole goal and the hope. It's never really going to turn out to that. But what if it's every 6 months and we just see that? Nobody's grading the set. Nobody cares. It's about the same as it was. Or all of a sudden, if we monitored like the month to month or quarter to quarter of how many 1990 Marvel Universe cards were graded, you know, since the boom and all this, and we now see that 20,000 cards of that are graded, you know, it's obviously where the popularity is for graded cards, you know, and have that information. So I thought that stuff was fascinating. I thought it was interesting things to see. And again, the biggest deal there is how do these cards grade? Am I expecting it to come out of the pack if I buy an old box as a real, you know, coin flip as to whether I've got a good card or whether, you know, everybody's getting 10s on this?
Can I just take a pause to welcome Josh? Josh, welcome.
Hey.
Keith, how are you?
Good, Josh. How are you doing?
A little technical difficulty this morning. Actually set the alarm way too early. Woke up first thing going, what am I doing? What's going on? Why am I going back to bed? This is awful. And then, so sorry, coming in late here, but it is really interesting kind of listening to how, you know, you came up with and the access you decided to give. I think it's a huge, it was a huge move to have it accessible by anyone, to be able to make additions to in order to grow it, because yourself, something a amount of data this large for one person, this just seems near impossible.
I did recently take a look. And again, this comes from two-sided. One of my big things also is hobby archival. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot under that hat, is that know the reason for the source of your information. And what I mean by that is that there are times that I could tell you things about a set because I might have a lot of that to sell. You know, like I sell stuff. I sell cards. I sell singles. I sell boxes. Am I telling you that to pump up a set because I think you need to go buy boxes of it? Well, hopefully I'm not, but like just understand the source of your information about this. Well, one of the big deals for me, of course, is I do want to sell the singles, and I need good images because that's just not terribly available on the internet. So I bought a scanner, a little feeder scanner. I'm now up to close to 30,000 images of my own cards scanned and sitting on a little network drive that I'm going to be using for this type of thing, and that's fronts and backs of all these cards.
Right.
And some of them don't scan well. You can't scan vibranium cards to make them look like anything like that kind of thing. The reflective just doesn't work.
Right.
There are good techniques to get that to work. You also can't scan through this little feeder scanner any of the Fleer Ultra, Masterpiece, 80-point kind of cards. It's not a thing that works. But getting all those images together and putting them up is going to be two-sided benefit for me, is because I love to have the checklist visual. But also number two is that as I get a set put together, I'll add my singles to my own website so that I can turn around and make it's part of my job. So it's been a blast for that side of things. And I really think that there can't be enough credit given to the predecessors of this, of House of Checklists, of having that. Trading card database is user driven, is community driven. I started this journey, now that I'm really thinking about it, probably back in 05, 06. There is a website out there called Comic Collector Live that is was designed as both software for your desktop to track your comic collection, and it's an online marketplace of its own. It had designs to be very, very large and very big. It had, if there's an era about 2-3 years that there's a whole bunch of ads actually in the back of your comics for it. And I know the guys over there, it was another community-driven, sourced information. And I got involved there. I was a moderator, and then they opened it up and decided, hey, we're going to allow some other stuff in here, including trading cards. And so a lot of the trading cards that are on there are my scans, and I was building it out, all of the Marvel Universe, the Masterpiece stuff that's on that website, because I was contributing and I was putting it up there because that's what I wanted. I wanted a resource where I could, catalog my entire collection and do all those pieces and have that. So this has been something I'm interested in and love to have for a long, long period of time.
Very cool.
I love it. Man and boy.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, Wes. I was going to ask what that inspiration was. What were some of the first there that got you to that point? And when you mentioned as far as the data for grading results, that is really interesting because a lot of us talk about what certain sets are grading out at and what they're known for. What's the, as you say, mean, the happy medium, whatever it is for some of these. And so when you kind of start to take a look at some of that can really help you out when you're collecting and when you're trying to decide what to grade and things like that. So I would imagine that's probably going to be one of the only places to find that source of information.
Well, it's all an opportunity to kind of like everybody can kind of add and decide what's good, what's bad. And again, it's part of a page. You're like, oh, I don't care about grading. Yeah, not why you come there, not what you have to read up on this. But I really consider and think about all the people. If you wanted to make a list right now of people that you know in the hobby, that you talk to in the hobby, that you go to ask the questions, that these people know this type of stuff. And it is fantastic that they're involved. It's fantastic that they're approachable and that you can have those kind of conversations. But what happens if they're hit by a bus? What institutional knowledge are we all losing out on because, like it wasn't shared in an archive? And that's literally, when I toyed with an idea, a name, something to come up that meant something about this, the idea, the archive and the kind of thing, it just became so resonating because it was just like, what would we go to? This could have been the Marvel card, the library. It could have been, the encyclopedia, right? Like there's a lot of words that evoke the idea of what we're trying to kind of get to. I thought wiki was too kitsch. Like I wanted this to feel historical, that we're saving this for future people to come into. And when somebody joins into Marvel Cards today or 5 years from now, this is the type of thing that can spark them. There was a post just this week in MCCW, not somebody who's like, look at all these cards that we're just going back through and just enjoying with my son and just looking at and having a blast with.
I saw that. Yeah,
fantastic. I'm glad you had that in your hands, but not everybody starts with having all that type of stuff. So where can we create the virtual catalog for it? And where can we? I heard this from Upper Deck. They're never going to put it on their website. They're not going to document that thing. But where can we document it so that we all can share in that pool of information?
Yeah. I tell you one of the other things in this age, because it's changed massively from the 90s. Everything was physical marketing, so it was all designed around promotional materials that went out through all the available mediums of the time. So it was magazines, it was comic book stores, it was promo cards within comic books, stuff that's stapled into comic books, all of that stuff that's there. Nowadays, that doesn't exist. But, excuse me, what does exist are the digital assets that are created to promote stuff, because those are the channels that people use. So rather than print loads of stuff and send it out, they're putting that money into creating assets, various mediums. So it's going to sound crazy. I haven't done it so much over the last 18 months, but I went for a phase of almost maniacally saving all the official images, the headers, the news article images from the Upper Deck EPAC website, because that was the primary kind of thing. And if you take it back a step for the physical release, Upper Deck would put out official imagery on their Facebook page, on their Twitter feed, on their Instagram, and it would be the same stuff, just reformatted slightly. But it's the only place that went, because the stuff that went out to the dealers and the distributors went out 3 to 5, 6 months before was probably different to what Upper Deck share at the time of release, because they often, stuff often changes massively. Hello, Black Cat image from the Spider-Man Metal Universe set. And, the look of the cards changes. Some card elements just completely disappear. So I think there is a place for capturing that stuff. I've got a folder on my Google Drive full of official Upper Deck promotional material that's a digital format. Will it ever be useful in any way, shape, size, or form? Will it ever find a home on? Sorry, what's the name of it on Fandom? Is it called Hobby Archival on Fandom?
I'm gonna look real quickly because I kept a link up here.
Send me the link. I'll pop it on screen. I'll pop it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So it is Marvel-collectible-cards.fandom.com.
Okay.
Again, I'm gonna send it so that.
Oh, okay. Save me having to clumsily type it away. Yeah, pop it over to me.
If you were another week into StreamYard here, we might try to share the screen, but I don't know if
I don't even know what button to present. Honestly, I don't. I mean, there's a present button at the bottom here. What does that do?
It's a little
present. Share screen. There we go. So it is at the bottom. No, I can. Yeah, send me the link. Send me the link on Messenger, and I'll share the screen. Fuck.
Well, you put it in the private chat there too, didn't you?
Oh, is there? Josh, I've got no idea what's going on right now. Apparently there's a private chat. There's a private chat. There it is. Wow, look at this.
That's fancy.
Look at this. I am the physical representation of that meme where people go like that. Keep sharing it. Keep sharing it. Right. Now, apparently I can make this big as well. So let me... Oh, no. It's done it itself. Brilliant. So, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, so as an example here in all this is, again, one of my most built-out pages. Anime is a set I love. Absolutely into it and all this. And again, you're going to get those ads. We're not paying for a version of this. We get ads. That's fine. But what I tried to capture here, again, is just kind of a standardization. Again, like quick details, snapshot here, first released. So there was a date that it came out. Little things like a genre, so to me this was an original art instead of comic sourced or instead of movie sourced, right?
Awesome. That's awesome. That's a great point there.
Yeah, and again, people like different types of sets, so later on we'll sort it that way so you can see just the types of set you care about. From the publisher, this is what they had in their original pitches to everybody. and I had saved a copy of the sell sheet that was sent out through distribution. Then we get into like overview here about what's the configuration: 5 cards per pack, 16 packs per cards per box, 16 boxes per case, which was really 2 8-box inner cases. Estimated print run. This is I'm sorry, my upper deck friends, you're going to hate me for this type of stuff, but if I can calculate, I'm going to share it. I can estimate that there was 10,800 boxes produced to this. How do you get that? It's based upon 1 base autographed card per box. That was the distribution. That's what the averages were. So because we know an estimated print run, you can then backdoor certain things in here. Again, I'm going to use my Chibi example. Some people are going to really get blown away by this. That tier 4 Chibi was 1 in 2,300 packs on Hobby, 1 in 2,250 packs on ePack. And we'll come back to that here in a second. There were exclusive cards, ePack exclusive cards for this set, the different achievements, the different parallel, the spiral combines. And then when we get into a checklist here, here's the base set, and I put down any information in here, like what, again, repeating the stuff up at the top, which Mega Moons tier 1 were these numbers, all the way up to this on this distribution. And then when you come into actually a checklist for this, this is what I put together based upon scans, and you can turn around and blow it up.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Such a lovely set.
So I did a scan. I did a scan of the back. I didn't repeat the back scan because it's actually the same for the next 3. But then when you get to
it goes
Mega
to
Moons,
Japanese language. Yeah.
There's the Japanese language. When you get to the autograph, there's the congratulations.
Yeah.
And then out here at the end, we would have, I don't have images of all the printing plates, obviously, and there was card notes if it was applicable. For this set, I don't think there is much in the way of card notes. Like most things are pretty standardized. But I set this up to just be, you could browse the whole thing here pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Take a look at your character and all this. And then I'm gonna jump ahead because it's gonna get, obviously there's a lot to a page if you're gonna get this kind of level of deep to it. I haven't found a good way to scan my capsules yet, so that's coming. You can't feed those through the scanner. But like, there's a great note one. So on the X-Men set, this Beast is on twice. He's card 44 and 46 and has the same name and art on both cards.
Wow.
But here we're into Chibis. And when we get to Chibi 4s here, there were 5 cards to the set. There were these. This was the distribution. And because we know the approximate print run and the approximate distribution, there's a print run of 16 of each one of these cards. This is the one I was talking about. This was the crux of information that was bad information floating around out there, or was understood by few and not known by all. And so if you knew that there was, even though these are not numbered, if you knew it was as rare as 16, what are you going to trade this card at? What are you going to personally value these characters at? And it's that type of thing that, like, it's important to have this information. You know, here's those exclusive EDOs, and how did you get them? You got them for achievement for complete set of idols, kaiju, and mechanized. These are what you got Black Widow for. It's that type of thing that I thought was a blast to, like, for everybody to know, everybody to see. These are very boring because all the backs are the same.
That's all right, though. Consistency.
Yeah, it's the depth of what you can kind of get to inside this entire set. But again, like, you came here to like the base image of the mechanized. Awesome. And you can even scroll it in here. This is the autograph version, right? You can see exactly where they put the numbering, exactly what it is. If there's ever questions in the future about counterfeiting, you know, having a documented source here that we can compare it to is going to be powerful. And then artist lists. What I would love to have, what I'll expand this into when we can get with artists, I'd like to have one more column here that would have one example of what they did in art, and potentially one back where you could also compare the signature.
Yeah, well, I think you need the signature as an isolated thing.
Yeah,
'Cause
there should be a page on here that allows you to compare signatures.
Yeah,
because-
but what I'm saying is there's a guy out there, I think it's Joe Reinwald or Jeff, I can't remember his name now. Jeff Reinwald, who's got that Rhino's Gone Crazy, who's got that site that he does with examples of artist signatures.
Mhm.
That'd be a perfect kind
I would
of
love
information.
for him to contribute and create the
Yeah.
exact same thing on this, just having it in one spot. And again, it's not because we absolutely need it here, but it's again, how do we get this all into one location so that
Yeah.
all your resources are with you?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
this is what I was talking about with the historic grading population reports. When I recorded from PSA in April of 23 for base, there was a total of 58 that were graded. 20 of them were either 10s or 9.5s, because again, I kind of combined those together because how the different companies handle that.
Yep.
And then the 9 population was also 9. So we can see here of the 58, 49 of the 58 were a 9 or better. That makes me think that this set grades very well.
Absolutely.
But when we get to base autographs, only 17 of the 35 that were graded are that high. Now, could be that some of these 35 here that weren't graded 9 or 10 could have been qualified only, like just to make sure it's authentic.
Yeah.
Could have been whatever, but it's just information. Do with it as you wish. And you can see that PSA has got 58 on the base, SGC had 4 on the base, and then CGC had 25 on the base. Which companies are more popular? And if you really want to see this, one of the great parts that's already built into this is you can sort by your columns.
Wow.
And you can see here, and again with PSA base, right? I recorded it once in April of 23. I recorded it once in December of 23. And you can see in that period of time, 50 more cards were base graded. But so many more of them were 9s.
Interesting.
Keith, that's amazing.
Wow.
It's the first blush. I gotta say that resources like this and pieces like this can't be built in a vacuum.
No.
I can think of things that are useful to me. What can you think of that would be useful for you that everybody can contribute to? If you can think of something else to get added into this, it's a wiki. We can all make it a community thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last piece on this is automatically builds in the wiki. You can notice all of these. What I really did here is that all of these links, we recorded the hyperlink to, where you could find this information.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
Because, proof's in the pudding, right? Like
You cite your sources. Yeah.
That's what this is. Again, Go GTS is where that information came sourced from.
Mm-hmm.
The Upper Deck EPAC has the checklist here. We have that linked up.
Wow.
And then when we start talking about how this page starts becoming a circle. So like here with Wolverine, you'll notice I have Wolverine linked out. I just haven't done this for all the characters yet. But this is to, on the same wiki, the character and his recorded cards inside the database.
Nice.
So you can see all this. And you're like, wait, he's in Bronze Age? Which, of course, it's Wolverine. He's everywhere, right? You can jump over to the Bronze Age page for the Rittenhouse and see what's going on with this page. Which, again, it's like maybe I only have information. I don't have scans yet. It's in different spots. But this was the entire... I can't remember if I put any scans up for this page yet, or just started recording information to have that there.
Yeah.
This is what Ian was talking about a long time ago. Rittenhouse would tell you who the artist was and the estimated count of how many sketches they did. Because they were tiered. Each one of the artists had that. You want to chase Mitch Ballards? There was estimated 51 to 150 that he did.
Wow.
See, what I love about this is, this is just my first thought, is you often, maybe not that often, you often have people who go, I've pulled this card. It's an error card of some kind. Is it worth much? And invariably, error cards fall into one of several camps. It's either something that was done in the production, so crimping or cutting. It's either some sort of misprint, and that could be because what was sent to print was wrong, or it's something else. I'm just trying to think of an example. My brain's gone. Anyway, there were quite a few examples where no, it's the entire print run. You know, there's Masterpieces 2008. There's there's 2 cards that are labelled Punisher.
Nick Fury, yep.
Sorry, no, 2 cards that feature the Punisher as the image, but one of them's labelled Nick Fury. There are quite a few actually in one of the 2008 sets. But it's, you know, it's whole print run things, and we've had that very recently with Platinum. Some of the creators' art variants that are labelled one colour but actually another. I can't remember the details now. And you know, that's
122
important
might
information to capture.
The green emeralds that were swapped for the silvers.
See, those are 2 great examples. The platinum ones that are the creator art variants that say that they're black or say they're purple printed on black, whatever that mix was.
Can't remember
is
now. Yeah.
all universal. All of them are that way. But the one Josh is bringing up, I have a Hulk that is on the base. It's on base stock. It shows silver foiling, but it has a green emerald serial number stamped on the back.
Masterpieces 22. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So in those 2 examples, all of the platinum are equally incorrect, right? Like the entire print run was printed on the wrong paper for that. On the emeralds, there have only been a couple bases that have been found with the emerald stamping, but that are really base cards just stamped incorrectly.
Yeah.
Those are errors, you know, like, and to have those kind of notes and information where everybody can share and pool into that, because people are going to find them. People are going to see that type of thing out there, and you don't want somebody to, we've all seen it. We've seen the eBay, look at this error, and you're like, that's just a miscut. That's
the printer line
printed poorly. You know, like, and some people, you know what? The guy who wants to collect all the crimped cards because they were crimped in the pack, have fun with it. Absolutely have fun with it.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't feel like a true error card to me.
Yeah, I just don't want somebody to think they're paying gem pricing. They're paying $100 for a 10-cent card, you know, kind of thing, because they didn't have the information. That's where this problem gets into a problem. Don't trick the people into. Yeah.
The thing with the Masterpieces one, I don't know if this is the case, but I think, isn't it along the character lines? So, for example, for Black Cat, I don't think I've seen a green. The ones I've seen pop up are on the regular silver, but some characters have genuinely popped up as green. But I've not seen Black Cat in green, if that makes sense. So it implies to me that all the Black Cats are errors. And certainly, if I remember correctly, no, I mean, people haven't been posting about it much because the openings have dried up, you know, ahead of EPAC. You know, it's not being shown or talked about that much at the moment. But certainly that's the kind of gist I got. And I think EPAC, if it happens at this point, I'm going to say if, not when, would, well, simply because we're a year and change out, Josh, and it hasn't happened yet. So it's like,
no, I'm getting concerned, but you would almost imagine it
take it for
how's
granted.
that not priority to at least make that happen before the ship sails away?
And here's another thing that I find fascinating. Sorry, Keith, you've got my brain going in all sorts of directions here.
But isn't that the fun, right? You're not.
Yeah,
I know.
We're not talking
What about?
We're back in the hobby.
Yeah, but what about cards that are achievement cards on EPAC, and not all of them make it out into circulation?
Yep.
And I'm going to go as far as to say this week's Unbound with Toad, I think it is, they're not all going to sell out. So whilst there are 999 base card, you know, 1 of 999 to 999 of 999, you might only have 300, 400, 500 actually in circulation. I find that fascinating. I'm not sure you'd ever be able to verify the exact number, but
without a lot of alcohol, access to the upper deck place, and probably an Ocean's 11 type heist. You know?
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, I think it's important information there, because for something like Unbound, on a character that's maybe not as popular, given Unbound is kind of in its twilight days, shall we say, No disrespect to Fred and Ian, the artwork's still fantastic, but
It is beautiful.
people have kind of calmed down with Unbound. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But a prime example, I think, is Pack Wars 2018-19, okay, which ran for I want to say 12 weeks, and the 13th week it didn't reach the end of, okay, because they sold out. Now the achievement card for week 13 was Spider-Man, and it's numbered to 100.
Yeah.
But I know that when it finished, there weren't 100 spots on the leaderboard, because by that point, it's been going 3 months, and people are kind of moved on to do other stuff. So not all of those 100. I think it's 100. Correct me if someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But this is why this exists, so that I wouldn't have to correct myself if it's wrong. But they're not out there now. That sort of information is held by humans. It's not on a website somewhere. It's held by us.
Right.
So I guess one of the reasons why I was excited to talk about this with Keith is everyone listening. This is for us to pull into.
Yeah. Help if you want. Use it if you want. It's meant to be open. It's meant to be there. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot of work to build a set in here. It's a lot of copying and pasting. It's a lot of stuff. It's not awful, but it takes a lot of time. And you know what? There's plenty of people who are like, I want to do that work. Not a problem. Nobody has to do the work inside this one. It will be as strong as everybody as what the total contributions get to. Because what I have here as far as like a MasterCard set list, you'll notice none of these are linked because I haven't built any pages for these until you get into I think the oldest set was that Bronze Age. That Bronze Age was my first test run.
Gotcha.
Build a page out. But this is how many of us know all these sets? Let's talk about the dark times here. Marvel Superhero Island from 1999 trading card set. You know about it?
It's awesome.
The do now.
It's like a 5-card set that was an individual pack inside of a blister pack of comics.
Yeah. Buybacks of it will be in the next release.
Was 9 cards. And we'll get this stuff kind of put in there, and we'll get I made room for VS system. I made room for Overpower.
It's interesting you call it VS system. I call it Versus, but yeah.
You're probably correct.
Well, I think it's how you read it. It's potato, isn't it? Let's face it.
But this whole thing about, again, there's Bronze Age. You can click into it. That's how this is.
Oh, this is bonkers.
No, I guess it's called the Fleer Retro page.
How do you find the time?
My hobby time has kind of changed because I feel like I lost some of the enjoyment of opening up new cards. I open up so much for business. I open on ePack so much to get the collection to the level I want. I'm not flipping them one by one. You know what I mean? I quickly look to the hit, sort it later. Look to the hit, sort it later kind of idea. And so this also became a case where I was losing the fun of the hobby. And this puts me back into the habit of enjoying the cards again. I have so many binders at home, but any of us who have a lot of binders, do you really pull them out that often to look? It feels like we don't.
No.
But I could flip a digital page even on my phone while I'm waiting for a plane. I could just relive a little nostalgia and have a little bit of fun there. So doing the scanning, doing all of this type of innovation did start as a problem solving for the business. How do I sell these cards? It did, there's roots in that. But then it became where I could enjoy some of the hobby. And like this page, one of the biggest things, I want a full set of base. I think I have that, and a full set autographed, and I don't have that. But Black Widow says that there are no autographed cards on the checklist. So I want to know and not try to be running around and find those that don't exist, right?
Sure.
It's frustrating if you think you just can't find the last one, and then you find out, oh, wait a minute, it just never exists. This just happened again. This last week, we were having a conversation about comic cuts, and we got into the Marvel Beginnings Ultimate panels that they created. The first card-sized comic panels that were in, and there are UM1 to UM30. but 2 of them were not inside the beginning's 3 sets. They were not there. They didn't exist. And finally, one day I found one, which was an Avengers #1, and it was distributed through Avengers Endgame. I think it was an Endgame, or Avengers Assemble was the set. It was distributed there. I found one, but I didn't know about the last one. I never knew about the last one until we started up a conversation in the group, and Pankit shows proof of life that there's a Captain Marvel one. It was in a Captain Marvel set. It is for Avengers #4, and it exists. And the one that I don't have exists. And now I'm back rejuvenated looking for this again. But
Wow.
because we had an open conversation, because there was a place to have a conversation like we did at MCCW, the information came to light. There's enough people out there who know information. It can all come to light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that proof of life that's so important. I've you've all got that kind of ghost. I love this phrase. I think Josh, I don't think you were on ghost cards. Cards that you've heard of but you've never seen. You believe they exist. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Area 51. Area 51, basically. So, and for me, there's 2 examples of that with the Masterpieces 2007, 2008. One of them is has anyone actually opened or remember opening or seeing Masterpieces 2007?
Oh yeah.
Because you got the UDE points, Upper Deck Entertainment points cards, okay? And you're probably thinking, what are they? What were they? I mean, they're part of my Masterpieces 2007 master set because they came in with Masterpieces 2007. I saw it was the Non-Sport Update Card Talk forum, and I've saved photos of it. One guy redeemed them. One guy, all right, 2 guys, but this other guy wasn't you. And he got an uncut sheet of Masterpieces 2008.
I didn't get that. That would have been cool.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I know that at least one uncut sheet from Masterpieces 2008 was issued in circulation, but I've never seen it since, or anyone. Well, I can go back and look at that post because it's still there. But I guess what I'm saying is, I know that one made it out. But how many others made it out? Because I've never seen them on eBay. I've never seen anyone else post them. With how busy MCCW has been over the last 6 years and change. If something's never been posted in group before, I'll comment and say I've never seen this posted before, because it's unusual with all that time, with the breadth of people that have been in that group. And the other one is Masterpieces 2008B had writer autos as its chase set, and they go up, then they almost fill 3 9-card pages. Okay. Yep. And this is on Scoundrel as well. 2 of them never got signed, and
that
so
would be
were
the
never
Brian
issued.
Michael Bendis one.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other name.
The other one is Warren Ellis.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I have spaces with a post-it note with the code name for the card in both of those slots, in case at any point there's. You remember that Atari dig where they dug up all the ET cartridges from the desert?
Yep.
Yeah. I at some point I want someone to demolish the building next to Upper Deck in Carlsbad and dig up loads of plastic sacks of all the stuff that they ended up buried into landfill when they had their clear out of their entertainment department in the late 40s. Because I'm absolutely certain. Listen, I mean, it probably all got shredded and burned or whatever, but at some point those cards would have existed even before signature.
Mm-hmm.
They would have. They didn't get. I mean, they're sticker autos. They're not on card, but. For me, that's a proper ghost card, because it was planned. It was on a version of the checklist at one point. So
one of my ghost cards is from that same set. If you remember, was Series 2 the one that had the memorabilia relics from
Fantastic Four ones? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are different colors for some of the costumes.
Yes.
I am missing still one of the Jessica Alba Invisible Woman colors. I have 3 Dooms. I think I have the blue, the black, and it's kind of a copper.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a reported out there, I think Jessica Alba is supposed to have both blue and black. and I think that I'm missing one of the colors. I know I'm
Wow.
missing one of the colors. I think that's the one I'm remembering.
Wow.
But that's my guess. That's my.
I love fun stuff like that. There's an example of that kind of thing in Lost, and these have been seen. But one of the actors, and it's like a one episode actor who you won't ever, if you look at it, you'll be like, who is that guy? I've never seen him in anything. But he chose to sign his cards in black, silver, and gold. Off his own back, he was sent like X number of auto cards to sign on card because it was Inkworks, and he signed 25 of them in gold. I'm making these numbers up, but he literally did tier it. He signed so many of them in gold, a few more of them in silver, and the rest of them in Bogo black.
That's fantastic.
But he did it off his own back, and it's like it's a thing. I think Maggie Grace from Lost Series 1. There's a number of different color and different thickness of pen as well, and so it's fascinating, that stuff. Wow. Okay.
I've always wondered, because I remember when because I've been digging into these medallions lately, and the 22 Avengers, when that set first came out, I thought the checklist had said that the amethyst cards were numbered out of 35, but there's never any numbers on them. But it's like the amethyst cards in the other sets are numbered out of 35. So were they numbered out of 35? Was there only 35 of them, but they just didn't get the numbers on the back?
This is an area I love of information. I will tell you how I look at this. There are 3 levels to new set information. The first level of new set information is the dealer sell sheets, the announcements that come out from Upper Deck. Usually, I follow most of them on gogts.net.
Yeah,
that's where they seem to write up the article the best. You'll see the same thing kind of copied on Beckett. Like that they'll have the same type of similar one where they start building their page there. That information is what's...
Sorry to interrupt. The other thing about GoGTS is that you can download the Excel version as well as the PDF when the checklist comes out.
Yep. So the first blush of information is what is sent out, and it's supposed to be the dealer sell sheets. It's supposed to be what dealers base their orders off of. It's what the information comes out as. It's preliminary. It's early. Production has not been finalized quite yet. There may be some things that are still going through approval, and that's where Ian will always be frustrated about what his Black Cat art is from Spider-Man Metal, because Scott Campbell was the art that they used on the sell sheet, wasn't it? And you ended up getting the Humberto Ramos.
I think so. Yeah, I was actually sent a mock-up of it from Upper Deck as well. I'm probably not supposed to say that.
They were distributing it as the yellow example. It was the yellow.
Yeah, I think they did post it on Instagram, on one Instagram post as well.
It was, just wasn't a real card. Level 2 information. Then 2 weeks before a set is dropped, they should release the checklist, and that's where, again, Coach GTS puts it up. You can download the Excel or the PDF. Those are the same things that they send out to dealers. That's the same email there. Usually then Beckett and Cardboard Connection will take that information and reprocess it so it's more web friendly. And
more editorial as well.
A lot of people check that out. Then the third level of information, and this always happens, is that I call it the physical verification. As an example, I was just recently opening up cards from Flair Ultra Wolverine. I was opening up other sets. There are changes to that checklist. The checklist has quite often a mistake here or there. There is Flair Ultra Avengers, as you mentioned. What was the first one with Ultra Abilities? I guess that was Midnight Suns. I think it was the Ultra Abilities were the first one recently with that. Says there's 30 cards. They're all numbered, 1 of 30, but there's really only 25. The last 5 don't exist. But you have to have seen enough product and seen that now by the time it got to EPAC, the checklist got corrected to find out that that information is there. And sometimes the mistakes are minor. Sometimes the Flair Ultra Wolverine calling the Nick Fury card the Nick Fury Jr. card thing, that kind of thing. That's a minor little thing. But when Spider-Man Metal checklist came out and it had Spot on it, and then it was an extra Spider-Man, that's obviously it didn't get approved. It didn't get through licensing. They had to scramble and find something else, but nobody told the checklist person. and the checklist went out with the wrong information.
Mm.
It's corrected by the time it got to EPAC, but these are all the different steps and all this. So it's a big deal to make sure that your final source of what you're using the information for gets updated. Because if the checklist goes out wrong, Beckett and Cardboard Connection are not correcting it. By the time it's built into trading card database, that's usually being done by a user, and that's usually being built off of the physical product that they have. So that's usually a better and more solid resource.
Sure.
It's
Interesting.
It's just fascinating stuff. What would you kind of hope off the back of this episode would happen next, Keith? Obviously, you're carrying on working with it, but you're only one guy. I imagine there's been some people who know about this kind of feeding in as well. Possibly Izzy. Is Izzy on board with this as well? I noticed him. Getting quite excited.
I want to give a little bit of a thanks. I get the name wrong. We all know it's Florist. Holrist? Is that what I'm thinking of, the sketch card artist?
Oh, Florist.
Florist.
Yeah.
He came in here. He came into this page. Let me back up and give a little bit of a, like, we didn't have much for sketch cards, but he actually created his own page and started putting this information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because other people will see that and follow suit.
I mean, I love this kind of thing. Like, again, my first design was you come to the 19 flare cards and, you just have one example up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, no, I'll put up different characters I did. I think that this is amazing. I think that if they want to put the time and effort into this type of thing, fantastic. I think this is great.
Brilliant.
I think that anyone who would like to turn around and to contribute and help and work on this, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm more than happy to discuss how we've done this. I'm more than happy to show. But literally, if you have a login to Fandom, you can edit the website today. That seems dangerous. It seems like somebody could come in and deface it and all this. Well, there's some rollback techniques that keep the thing safe and all this. So I'm not worried about that. I would much rather have it just wide open. It's not on post approval. It definitely, like, it would be a lot to manage if we started getting defaced or something like that. We'd have to get it changed. But I'd much rather have it open that anybody who would like to turn around and contribute information to come in here and do it. I'd love to have the conversation about why I think like that circular motion to the website about you can click into a card and click into a character and click into and see a checklist here and all this, why it's valuable for different people and why we over time want to do all the work and want to do all of that type of information. But at the same time, if anybody just says, hey, can we just get checklists up? Can we just forget the scans? I can't do scans. I'm not into that and all this. I mean, if somebody typed in the 1990 checklist, I probably have all of the images and I could add those I could come behind that. And then someone else who has that name of who the artists were and everybody that worked on the card could come in and put that information in. I'd love to talk. Was it James Edel who was doing the source? Because that was another big deal here. I'm going to go back to that. I started doing it on the Bronze Age here. The art that's on the book and sourcing the art to where it came from, which was easier on this set because like the cards say so. But then I also would link out here it would jump up to the actual Marvel database of comics, right? So you could see the comic that it came from.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
And this is nothing I did. This is now to a different, wiki that's got great information because this Marvel database here has been way filled in with all the goods about the comics. But if you wanted to collect that black cat from Spider-Man, the comic that matches it, well, this will tell you what comic you're looking for. You can kind of chase things that way. So there's room for anyone who wants to help and provide information. If you would like to provide information, but it's like, I'm just not tech savvy, I would absolutely take that information by private message or email, and I would come here. And I do think that so far, because I haven't had a lot of people involved in this yet, we haven't started crediting who's been working on the site. It's kind of hidden in the site as to which logged in account did what to the stuff, but I do think that we need to have that on there. And it's something, again, from House of Checklists that I really appreciate when he would talk about who gave him information. The community credit needs to be there.
Sure.
So it's definitely something there that if this sparks your interest, if you'd like to turn around and put in an hour every 6 months on doing a couple things to make it, I would take all the help possible.
Sorry, Josh, I've covered your face there.
No worries. Keith, I was going to say with the sketch artists that, when they come in, I think that's a huge opportunity for a reputable archive to have, to have these artists come in, post any of their works on officially licensed set, and really, again, like you say, cyclical chain there. People jump onto some of these artists like character collectors, and if they can have an area to find, to go in through and scan. And one of the other questions I have is there a opportunity for one of those larger? I've seen one of these scanners, the high speed scanners.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the sports card guys use them, and they're amazing, but it's still a process. Is there one, or will there be one for like your 100 PT and your 135s?
So I know that there's a better one. When I went shopping for the scanners, I bought the Epson model, which is kind of a cheaper one. It's like about $300, and it works really well for sheet fed. You always want to test it first on certain cardstock. Some of the cardstock picks up printer line, roller lines and all this. So you kind of try it on some, cheap card you got a lot of to begin with. I've seen the one that's really high speed, and it looks like it takes top loaders. So I think maybe that would, but when I was looking at that one, it was considerably more. I want to say it was like $1,000 or $1,500. So I didn't buy that one. It's possible.
Okay.
I will say what I have done for some of those sets, because I've taken a lot of shots of Midnight Suns so far, and I've started working on Fleer Ultra Wolverine. Dennis Gode's photo method works great. It doesn't have, it's much slower, obviously, than scanning a stack of cards. But setting up what Dennis sets up with a light source underneath, a light ring on top, the camera positioned and all this. That's what I follow to do those those thicker point cards right now. And that would obviously work all the way up to, like, say, the shadow box cards.
Yeah.
I
was thinking about Ian's archive card.
Yeah, what's that? The one from Fleer Ultra Spider-Man that's got the webbing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
the manufactured webbing.
Yeah. So things like that I know that method will be necessary for those. And I think it's even necessary for the opposite side, where I have to do those chivis and those capsule cards, because they're just too small to go through a scan.
Yeah. Acetate achievements.
You can do this, but every time you do something, I'm obviously looking at doing this in mass. So I was looking at what's the functionality that'll get done the most cards as fast as possible, kind of idea.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Otherwise, you'll be there all the rest of your lifetime.
You got a lot of cards to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cards out
there. I did just start uploading in the next page. I know I'm going to work on and I hop all over, but I'm going to do the 66 Donruss page. I have a set of those that I scanned.
Nice.
And I want to put them up even if they're not in the mintiest of mint conditions. They're not bad, but there's a couple of them under that you can see where the writing was erased from the person who filled in the word bubble on those. But
That's okay. Well, they're placeholders.
It'll be fun to have.
Yeah. I mean, when a card set's that old. This is fascinating. I love this.
It really is.
I thank you, Keith, for doing this and getting up and running.
Yeah, nice work. It's really a lot of effort, and it's well executed. It's going to be really useful.
Can I also say thank you for, you've done some brilliant stuff in the last year. The examples I can think of off the top of the head is a couple of days ago you posted just a guide for Flare, for people chasing Flare on EPAC, and what to look for and what to do.
What a curse that was. I posted that up about the achievements because there's some really cool achievements this time.
Yeah.
And then I get contacted by a friend and he's like, let's do it. Help me get these achievements. So I've been I've been working the midnight hours on chasing down.
Wow.
We're close. We're going to get there. It's going to happen. Maybe even
Hats off to
today.
you.
But
Hats off to you.
it's a blast to. I'm having you find the ways to enjoy your habit, right? Like it's pretty important to find enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, and the other one was the I think this was brilliant. So thank you for doing this. Was Fleer Throwbacks. You express shipped examples of the cards.
Oh yeah.
To yourself, and then did a live stream on Instagram, which I think was brilliant because it was so fresh out even at that point. And will you be doing the same again for Fleer Throwbacks 1958 to 1962, exclusively announced by Joe Upperdeck on the podcast a few weeks ago?
I am so looking forward to it because it's anything that's old. I would be in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going to be interesting. We haven't recorded it yet, but this coming Friday we're recording with TJ and Joe from Upper Deck.
That's great.
And they're going to tell us all about it.
This again feeds into information, so it's always talking about and little tidbits. I always walk that line. I talk to a lot of people. I have that about spoiler versus info kind of idea. And I don't feel bad if I'm spoiled, but I'm also the type of person, I don't need to know it all. I don't need to be spoiled on something. It's okay if I enjoy it when I just get it in my hands for the first time kind of thing. But we all know we love hearing the information. We love hearing the announcements. We love seeing the examples. We're still up in the air right now from where we're recording right now. We have not seen Metal Avengers in our hands yet, but it could be in the next 48 hours. The conversations about whether it's delayed or not don't line up, and it may not be delayed. FYI.
Whoa.
I'm hoping to have confirmation tomorrow on that.
I was going to say, you heard it here last, because this episode will be up. It will be old news.
Has not changed the date.
My goodness me. I love it. I love it.
2 days, it's 3 days from now.
Okay. Exciting stuff.
Wow.
Right. I'm going to wrap us up, quite frankly, because I've got no idea how to end one of these. Let me take this off here. Now, you're on YouTube as well, and I've already got one of these prepared. There you go. There's a nice little now you've only got the one video up there yet, but I imagine you're going to do more of these. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So I'm launching up next month. I'll be doing formats. They're going to vary in size. My first video out is going to be the intro, who I am, why I'm speaking to you, and then I have some shows planned. The plan is to turn around and very similar to what you do here. It's big tip of the cap to what you've built on here. You have the right guest on for the right topic. I think that's really important. It's not going to be a situation where I know everything, and I would really love to have people who know the right stuff enhance the show kind of idea. So there's going to be topics all over the place. A lot of set reviews. Again, that will help me promote selling sets that I have here in my store, because people can't tell enough about it until I just look at the front card in the box. Yeah. All the way up to having hobby conversations, right? And one of the big ones I really think of that I really want to get. This is going to be a very meaty conversation, but how to value a card. And what I mean is not a definitive answer about looking at all this. It's more of a conversation about understanding that there may be 5 to 10 values on every card. And what I mean is that there's the lowest price available. There is the last sold price. There is a historic average price. There's also this is personal to me, I'll never sell it price. But we all know that.
Otherwise known as my fuck you price.
There's going to be. I could never see myself giving up my 2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men after all I've been through to put together what I have. But the right person with the right briefcase would prove me a liar, right? Like it's just that
of course.
Let's be honest. So again, but when people, I think one of the biggest things, and when we have arguments about values, are we really talking the same level here? Are we talking about like, I'd like to talk to you about the card value because I'm willing to sell it at what today's price is, and I'm willing to be 5% underneath the lowest price, or I'm not willing to do that. I want this premium price because I think it's going to return to that value. And again, you can just say, no, I'm not interested in buying, but having the conversation openly and having the information out there, And I think that the biggest deal is that we just quickly jump to the answers and we don't understand the whys between each other, and it causes a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
And I'd love to turn around and kind of poke holes about that, so everybody has that little bit of a, oh, maybe that's what he meant, and we get along a little bit better. And this camps against each other is the dumbest idea we've ever had in Marvel cards.
Agreed.
The Marvel card community is so small, it's not worth turning around and alienating any person inside of it. It's not worth turning around and making a case, or it's got to be my guys that get cards and not you guys that get cards. It's all crazy. It's crazy talk in life and all this, and we all need to respect each other's way to enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, we're all on the same team here.
Yeah, and you know what? I say that fully well. I don't mind the person who's out there to make money. I really don't. It's not what a lot of us are used to. It's not what we, because again, I don't buy a lot of cards to make money. I sell my extra cards, and that's kind of my difference. But you know what? The person who wants to turn around and do that and wants to bring cards to light, and they want to crack a lot of boxes to find the big hits, maybe they're making the mid-level stuff available for me. Like, part of the ecosystem can work, but not if we're going to be at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Well, amen to that. Keith, you've been amazing. Thank you for getting up early and jumping on. And Keith, on that note that you just kind of left us with, what do you want to say to our audience?
I would tell everybody to enjoy collecting.
Gorgeous. And cue the outro.
Sweet.
Nice.
Right, I'm going to end it there. Now you should stay there, hopefully, but if not, I will see you later. But I'm going to push the end stream button because I've no idea